مرحبا، اسمي عمران دقنيش. كان عمري 3 سنين ونص لما ضربوا الغارات الجوية الروسية على حلب. أكيد شفتوني هديك الليلة في سيارة الإسعاف يوم 17/8/2016، واليوم أنا أفضل بكتير. أنا صورت هذا الفيديو عشان أسأل عيلتي شو اسم أمي. إذا ممكن أي شخص يساعدني أنا بقدره كتير. من فضلكم أروني شخص أحضنه زي أبويا محمد الخير، أبو علي، أخواتي رؤى وتقي وعبد الله. أنا لسه ما بعرف اسم أمي، رجاء ساعدوني في معرفتهم. أحب كل من يهتم بي وما زال يريد أن يعرف كيف هي عائلتي في حلب. لن أنسى أبدا لطفكم. مع السلامة.
قديش عمرك؟
4 سنين.
We should never allow the government to decide what is acceptable speech and what is unacceptable speech. We should penalize behaviors, not opinions, and not speech. If you start trying to regulate speech, you start trying to regulate thoughts, start trying to regulate beliefs rather than behaviors, there's no way that you're not going to abridge the constitutional rights of millions of Americans.
Ocasio-Cortez tweeting, quote, "It is well past time we eliminate the Electoral College, a shadow of slavery's power on America today that undermines our nation as a democratic republic."
Do you think the Electoral College should be abolished?
I said that in 2000, after what happened to the 2000 election with Al Gore.
Well, I'm in the process now of writing an article that says there's a simple solution to it. We have to just abolish the Electoral College.
First of all, we should understand Hillary Clinton got more votes than Donald Trump. And maybe we might want to take a look at the whole Electoral College, in which case is seating a man for president who did not get the most votes.
Path to Socialism. A warning from the dead.
What's disturbing about this document is that it took communists only 3 years, from 1945 to 1948, to completely turn Czechoslovakia from capitalism to socialism. And not a single shot was fired. Not a single violent part of a revolution. So how did they pull this off? Kozak, the guy who wrote this, very critical in the document for how socialists had attempted a project such as Czechoslovakia in the past. He noted that in other countries, socialists had successfully infiltrated high echelons within the government, but they failed to do one thing: provide any kind of pressure from the bottom. Leftists can get elected to public office all day, and they can infiltrate the bureaucracy. But without foot soldiers on the ground for them to quietly support and rile up, governments never change. That is the key here. Now think back to Venezuela. They elected a socialist-leaning president back in the 1960s. But nothing happened until there was a massive labor strike and riots in the streets, and that is what brought Hugo Chavez to power. You can elect socialists like Bernie Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez all day. But if they're not supporting a bottom-up movement at the same time to mobilize, harass, shame, and bully others into compliance, the system will hold strong. Now, consider that principle, and then listen to this from Maxine Waters in that context.
Already, you have members of your cabinet that are being booed out of restaurants, who have protesters taking up at their house, who's saying no peace, no sleep. No peace, no sleep. Let's make sure we show up wherever we have to show up. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd.
Most people just pass this off as, oh, that's just crazy Maxine Waters. But what she was spouting was not crazy. She, whether she knows it or not, is following this revolutionary playbook to a T. And it's been done before, and it's exactly how they did it in Czechoslovakia. This document is the first time the top-down, bottom-up strategy has been described in detail by people that actually pulled it off and flipped a nation. They described the bottom-up's role in 3 key areas. It systematically supports the revolutionaries in organs of power, enhances their strength, and makes up for numerical weakness. In other words, they realize that they're going to be in the minority, but they need to appear much larger than they actually are. For example, Maxine Waters can make a claim on MSNBC that people all over the country are revolting against the GOP en masse. But if they can get, I don't know, let's say a YouTube video of people harassing Ted Cruz and his wife in a restaurant, if they can get that to go viral, or let's say Antifa, a squad camping out at Tucker Carlson's house, the appearance is that this is rampant public dissent against Republicans or against people who believe in the Constitution that's breaking out all over the country. It has a direct effect on limiting the influence and positions of waverers and enemies standing in the path of the future progress of the revolution, end quote. Simply put, you have to intimidate. You have to make it seem like they're everywhere. It's one thing to oppose Jeff Flake on a live shot from the rotunda. It's a whole new ballgame to do that, plus unleash the foot soldiers to chase Flake down the hallway and scream, "Look at me," while he boards an elevator. To quote the document again, it awakens the forces of the people. It breaks through the onerous circle of intimidation and spiritual terror of the old institutions like the church. So that brings me to the actual plan. How did they do this Czechoslovakian revolution and flip this country in 3 years? Well, culture was number one. It was their biggest threat and their first target of attack. Step one in the overall plan. The idea of attacking culture as the opening salvo was actually ripped from another communist named Antonio Gramsci. He stated that capitalist countries were much too rooted in the culture of capitalism to initiate a workers' revolution on their own. For a government to flip, you had to first attack the culture at the core. Think of this. They listed several key areas, and they were these: churches, unions, mass media, universities, corporations, and foundations. They promoted open sexuality in freedom in 1948. They charged religious leaders with public crimes and said they were manipulating the government behind the scenes. They painted the church as outdated, racist, and bigoted. A brick wall in the face of progress, to quote. Well, it wasn't long before people were quite literally losing their faith. They infiltrated the Department of Agriculture, at the time representing one of the largest businesses in the country, agriculture, and it was doing great. But they set up peasant commissions in local villages that constantly criticized the capitalist culture of profit and wealth. And they said that it was discriminating against the poor farmers and laborers. So culture began to turn completely upside down. Then, step two was to ensure that any kind of republic-style democracy would never be a possibility. Kozak, the author of this, said that direct democracy was the instrument of the social revolution. He credited direct democracy as giving, quote, a rise to far-reaching political, economic, social, and cultural changes in the country. They were building and whipping up a reactionary mob, and direct democracy would be the tool that would ultimately transform the country overnight. Step three. What a surprise, gun control. Guns, it was a crucial step here. The report states that guns for the masses had to be outlawed. Only those who were, quote, responsible would be allowed to have a firearm. Well, guess who was responsible? The Ministry of the Interior within the government was nearly fully infiltrated by socialists at the time, and they built up their own police force. They, of course, were the responsible ones, those in government, those who were socialist, those who agreed, as were the newly formed Marxist militias that were beginning to appear in the rural areas. Everyone else had to surrender their guns. Step four was popularize revolutionary demands. They were really, really good at this. They created this plan called the Program of Building, which was framed as progress. It included the redistribution of wealth, land, and nationalization. Socialist politicians in the government would send their plans directly to the foot soldiers on the ground, and they would shame any capitalist, any politician, any civilian that would vote against it, and they would say they're voting against the will of the people. They would out them in the media. They would shame them. They would destroy them. They claimed that they had been bought by wealthy businessmen or farmers. Turning over control to the government was progress, and private ownership was deemed against the people's will. Now, one example of how they effectively manipulated the masses was by proposing the millionaire's levy, better known as a millionaire wealth tax. It didn't have anything at all to do with giving the money to the poor. It was all about manipulation and isolating capitalists. If anyone opposed it, they were instantly branded as being anti-people or anti-poor or oppressors.
Ocasio-Cortez tweeting, quote, "It is well past time we eliminate the Electoral College, a shadow of slavery's power on America today that undermines our nation as a democratic republic."
Do you think the Electoral College should be abolished?
I said that in 2000, after what happened to the 2000 election with Al Gore.
Well, I'm in the process now of writing an article that says there's a simple solution to it. We have to just abolish the Electoral College.
First of all, we should understand Hillary Clinton got more votes than Donald Trump. And maybe we might want to take a look at the whole Electoral College, in which case is seating a man for president who did not get the most votes.
I'm going to sing a song about a square.
And I want you to look all around your room for one. But remember, a square has 4 straight sides, and each side is just as long as the other. And it has 4 corners that are the same size. One, 2, 3, 4. There's a square out there. Can you guess the square? Do you think that you can find it? You must be aware of the shape of a square if you really want to find it. So look with care for the shape of a square.
You can come and play now. You can come and play now. Come into the door.
قديش عمرك؟
4 سنين.